No one walks down the aisle thinking, this is the person who will betray me in ways I can't even imagine. But if I had known what was coming, I don't think I would have said, I do. We had been married for 5 years. 2 kids, a quiet house with a white picket fence, birthday balloons taped to the fridge, and Sunday mornings with pancakes and cartoons. My wife, Emily, was everything to me. Or at least, I thought she was. That's the part that haunts me most. Not just the betrayal, but how real it all felt, how deeply I believed in the lie. It didn't start with shouting or slammed doors. It started with distance. The kind you can't measure but feel in your bones. She stopped laughing at my dumb jokes. Stopped reaching for my hand under the dinner table. Our conversations turned into checklists. Groceries, daycare, bills. I thought maybe it was stress, work, kids, exhaustion. So I tried harder. I planned a surprise weekend in Lake Tahoe. Left sticky notes on her mirror. Still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She smiled, but it never touched her eyes. Then came Josh, my cousin. We grew up together. He was more like a brother to me. He'd always been the wild one, charming, reckless, constantly chasing some new adventure or woman. But recently, he seemed different, calmer. I've grown up, man, he said one night over beers. Trying to settle down, be closer to family. So I let him in. That was my first mistake. At first, it felt good to have him around. The kids loved him. Emily laughed more when he was over. At the time, I told myself it was just because he was funny. Josh always knew how to light up a room. But then the glances got longer. Her posture changed when he entered. She'd touch her hair, shift her voice just slightly. I wanted to believe it was in my head. One Saturday, I took the kids to the park, so Emily could have some me time. I forgot my wallet and came back early. The house was quiet. Too quiet. When I walked in through the back door, I saw them. Josh was sitting on the couch, legs spread like he owned the place. Emily sat next to him, too close. Her hand was on his knee. They weren't kissing, not yet, but the air between them crackled. They didn't notice me. I didn't make a sound. I just walked out the door and drove back to the park like nothing had happened. My hands were shaking the whole time. From that moment, I stopped living. I started observing. Emily was different, distant, then suddenly warm, then distant again. Her perfume changed. Her phone became her constant companion. She'd get defensive over nothing. Why do you care what time I'll be home? You never used to ask, she snapped once, like I was the one acting strange. Josh kept coming around, always with an excuse. Left my jacket, thought I'd say hi to the kids. Wanted to watch the game. But something in his eyes had shifted. There was guilt. Just a flicker. But it was there. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear her say the words. I started following her. One night, she said she had a work dinner. I watched her drive across town and meet Josh at a quiet restaurant, the kind with candles and low music. I sat across the street in my car, rain drumming on the windshield. They laughed. She leaned in. He touched her cheek. And then they kissed. I didn't go in. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, letting the betrayal sink in like poison. But the story doesn't end there. Because that night, after they left, I followed Josh. I didn't even know why. I just needed answers. He didn't go home alone. He parked in a different neighborhood. A woman came out to greet him, tall, blonde, with a toddler on her hip. She kissed him. He picked up the child and smiled like a man who belonged there. My blood ran cold. Who was she? Did Emily know? Was she just a fling to him? Or was she part of something else? I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark with questions I didn't know how to ask. All I knew was that my cousin, the man I once called my brother, was hiding something. And Emily, she wasn't just cheating, She was in way over her head. There was a secret, and it was only just beginning to surface. After that night, something in me broke, but not in the way you'd expect. I didn't storm into the house and throw her things out. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell her I knew. I just started moving differently, quieter, slower, like every step I took was on thin ice, because I wasn't just heartbroken. I was trying to understand, and deep down, I still loved her. That was the hardest part. Emily noticed the shift almost immediately. She started asking questions, nothing direct, just enough to fish. "Are you okay? You've been quiet lately. You're not mad at me, are you?" I lied, smiled, said I was tired from work, said the kids had worn me out. I don't think she believed me, but she didn't push. Maybe part of her was scared I knew. Then came the apology. It happened on a Tuesday night. The kids were already asleep. I was sitting on the couch, half watching some old movie, when she sat down next to me. Not across the room like she'd been doing lately, right next to me. Her eyes looked glassy, like she'd been crying. "I know I haven't been myself," she said softly. I didn't respond. She kept going. "I've made mistakes. I just want you to know I'm trying. I've been confused about a lot of things. About us. About everything." There it was. Not quite a confession, but not a denial either. She reached for my hand, and for a moment, I almost let her hold it, almost let myself fall back into the lie, just to feel close to her again. But I pulled away. "I just need time," I said. Her eyes fell. She nodded. "Okay." And then she stood up and left the room. I should have felt triumphant. I didn't. All I felt was emptiness, because I knew what she was doing, testing the waters, seeing if I suspected anything, and maybe, just maybe, trying to clear her conscience a little before going back to him. But I wasn't the same man I was before. I started watching more closely, not in anger, in silence. I wanted to see it play out, how far she'd go, what lies she'd tell, and how much she'd pretend not to notice, the man she married slipping away. Meanwhile, Josh became bolder. He texted me one night asking if I wanted to grab a drink. I said yes. We met at some low-key bar near the edge of town. He acted like nothing was wrong, joking, laughing, buying, rounds. "Man, I missed this. Just the two of us again," he said, clinking glasses like he didn't have his hand on the knife in my back. I didn't give him what he wanted. I didn't show hurt. I smiled, asked him about work, let him talk. That's when he slipped. "I've been seeing someone," he said, pretending it was casual. "It's not serious, but yeah, she's kind of amazing." I looked him in the eye. "What's her name?" He hesitated for a second. "Rachel." A lie. A cheap, lazy lie. Rachel was the name of a girl he dated years ago, someone he knew. I'd remember. But I also remembered the woman from the other night, the blonde, the toddler, the second life. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about Emily. Josh had secrets piled on top of secrets, and I'd stumbled right into the middle of them. Back at home, Emily started acting strange. One night, she asked me if we could have dinner, just the two of us. Said she wanted to talk. I agreed. She lit candles, played soft music, wore a dress I hadn't seen in months. It felt like we were pretending to be us again, just for a little while. She served wine, smiled across the table, and for a few moments, I almost believed we could fix it. And then she said it. "I think I made a huge mistake." My hands froze on the fork. She continued, voice trembling. "I don't want to lose this. You, the kids, us. I don't even know how things got so complicated." I didn't answer. I let her speak. Because that's what people like her do. They try to confess just enough to feel better, but not enough to face the full weight of what they've done. "I want to start over," she whispered. "And That's when something inside me shifted again. Not into anger, but into clarity. Because she didn't want forgiveness. She wanted escape. Escape from guilt, from consequences, from the truth. That's when I realized Emily wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid I already knew. She was trying to get ahead of it. So I gave her exactly what she wanted. I smiled. I said, let's take it slow. Figure things out together. And she cried. Tears of relief, hugged me like she hadn't in years. But inside, I was already gone. I wasn't trying to fix things. I was trying to finish something. Because there was still one truth I hadn't uncovered. Who was the woman with Josh? Why was he living a double life? And most of all, why did I have the gut feeling that this wasn't just infidelity? It felt deeper, more dangerous. Something told me that Emily didn't know everything about Josh either. Something told me that Josh had a secret, one that could ruin more than just a marriage. They say when something breaks inside you, you either fall apart or you build something new from the pieces. I didn't fall apart. Not after that dinner. Not after watching my wife cry and pretend she wanted to make it right. Not after pretending to believe her. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I evolved. I started with the simplest things. I woke up earlier, worked out again. I stopped skipping breakfast, stopped scrolling through photos of better times. I poured myself back into the things I used to love, before I lost myself in a marriage that was quietly bleeding me dry, Emily noticed. Of course she did. She commented on it one morning, half smiling over her coffee. You've been different, lately, in a good way. I told her I just wanted to be better. For the kids. For myself. She bought it. She even leaned in to kiss my cheek. I let her. But deep down, I was watching her just as much as she was watching me. We were both pretending, just playing different games. Meanwhile, Josh had started slipping, getting sloppy. I caught him one afternoon sitting in his car a block from our house. I didn't confront him. I just noted it. What time it was, what direction he drove off in. That same night, I saw his car parked in a motel lot across town. The blonde woman was there again. But this time, she didn't seem happy to see him. She was crying. Angry. I snapped a few pictures, just in case. And then I walked away, unnoticed. Back home, Emily was quieter these days. Something in her had shifted. Guilt, maybe, or fear. There were moments where I caught her staring at me, like she was trying to figure out whether I knew, whether she should say something, whether I'd already made up my mind. And I had. But not in the way she expected. You see, I wasn't just planning to leave her. I was planning to expose both of them. There's a moment in every storm when the wind goes silent, when everything pauses before the thunder cracks. That's where we were now, right in the silence before the collapse. One night, I sat on the porch with my oldest son. He asked me, "Dad, why don't you smile as much anymore?" That hit harder than any betrayal ever could. I didn't lie to him. I said, "Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be happy, but I'm working on it." He just nodded, then leaned against my side like he always used to. I held him a little tighter that night, because I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I was doing it for them. I started digging. Josh's job wasn't what he said it was. I called the company he claimed to work for. Turns out they'd let him go months ago. Fraud, misuse of funds. His LinkedIn was a lie, like everything else. The woman he was living with, her name was Claire. Divorced. One child. No idea Josh was seeing someone else. I figured that out after a little visit to the cafe where she worked. She smiled when I mentioned his name, until I asked, "Did you know he's dating my wife?" The color drained from her face. She didn't say a word, just stared at me like I had just cracked open her whole world. I left her with my number, told her I wasn't looking for revenge, just truth. 2 days later, she called. She told me everything. Josh had been living with her on and off for almost a year. Said he loved her. Said he was working on a future for them. Promised to adopt her kid, but he was never consistent. Always disappearing. Always broke. Always full of excuses. And then she told me something that stopped my breath. I found a second phone. He kept it hidden in a shoebox. She sent me pictures. One of the numbers saved in that phone was Emily's. That's when I knew for certain Emily wasn't just his fling. She was part of a much bigger web. And Josh wasn't just some charming loser. He was dangerous, a manipulator. Someone who collected women like masks he could wear, depending on the room. And Emily, whether she knew it or not, had been wearing one of those masks too. But I wasn't ready to confront either of them yet, because I wanted the full picture. So I kept playing the role: husband, father, forgiving man trying to rebuild. I planned a dinner. Something nice. Just Emily and me. Candlelight. A handwritten invitation. She was confused at first. "What's the occasion?" "Just us," I said. "We need it." She agreed. I had no idea if she thought I'd forgiven her, or if she was hoping I would. Either way, she showed up dressed beautifully, smiling like it was our first date again. We sat down. I poured the wine. And then, with the softest voice I could manage, I said, "There's something I need to tell you." Her smile faltered, but I didn't give her the truth. Not yet. I gave her just enough to stir the fear. "I've been doing some thinking about us, about the last few months." She waited, quiet. I know more than you think I do." Her fingers tensed around the stem of the glass. "What do you mean?" I smiled. "We'll talk more soon." I stood up and walked away, leaving her in the candlelight, holding a glass of wine she didn't drink, because I needed her nervous. I needed her rattled, because the truth was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't just destroy her, it would destroy him too. The night of that dinner, something changed in Emily. She didn't say much after I left her sitting there in the glow of those candles, but I saw the shift. It was in her eyes the next morning, searching, cautious, like someone walking through fog, waiting for something to jump out. She asked me, "What did you mean last night?" I just smiled. "You'll understand soon." That's all I gave her. No anger, no accusations. And that terrified her more than yelling ever could, because silence makes people imagine the worst. I started noticing her checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking, pacing the hallway late at night. She'd ask loaded questions like, "Have you talked to Josh lately?" Or, "Is something going on at work?" Trying to sniff out what I knew, and how much. I gave her nothing, because I was saving everything. Meanwhile, Claire, the woman Josh had been lying to, started opening up more. She sent me messages, screenshots, even recordings of their conversations. He had promised to marry her, had her convinced they'd move out of state together, said he had money tied up in investments, told her I was a toxic cousin, jealous of his success. She asked me one night over the phone, "Why are you still with her, after everything?" And I said something I hadn't admitted out loud until that moment. I'm not staying. I'm waiting, because what I was building wasn't revenge. It was truth. And truth has a way of sticking, long after anger fades. So I started piecing everything together. Every lie, every timeline. I created a map, literally. A wall in the garage covered, in post-it notes, photos, printouts, the motel visits, the phone logs, the fake job Josh never had, the financial trail of money Emily had secretly withdrawn from our joint account. She'd been funneling him cash, small amounts, spread out over months, disguised as grocery runs, school fees, birthday gifts. But I saw the pattern, and I kept quiet, because something darker had started to surface. A conversation Claire recorded one night during an argument with Josh. He was drunk, sloppy, angry. "You think I care about her? She's just leverage. She does what I want, she pays, she follows, she's scared I'll leave her. And then he laughed. I've done this before. This isn't new for me. That's when I realized Emily wasn't his first, maybe not even his second. He had a pattern, a system. He found women who were vulnerable, lonely, frustrated in their marriages or uncertain in their lives. He gave them attention, intimacy, thrill, and in return, he took everything. And Emily, she wasn't innocent, but she was a pawn, one he thought he could control. That's when I decided it was time to move. I invited Josh over, just like old times. Beers, a game on the TV. I even grilled outside. He was hesitant at first, probably confused, but he showed up. Because people like him, they always think they've won. He laughed too loud, bragged too much, wore a new watch, probably bought with Emily's money. He called me bro, said he was glad we were cool again, and I smiled, played along, until we were alone on the porch, kids asleep, Emily in the kitchen. That's when I said it. You remember Claire? His face dropped, just for a second. But I saw it. I sipped my beer. She says hi. He stared at me. What are you talking about? I turned to him, calm, steady. I know everything, Josh. The motel, the second phone, the money, the lies, all of it. He laughed, nervous, fake. You're being dramatic, man. I'm not, I said. I've got proof, and I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing before I burn every bridge you've got left. He stood up like he was about to say something threatening, but I leaned in. I'm not scared of you. You think you're clever, but you're just a con with a script, and you ran it on the wrong family this time. He sat down, because he knew. I didn't give him a deadline. I didn't tell him what I'd do next. I just let the truth sink in and left him in that silence. And Emily, I told her we were going on a trip. Just us, I said. A reset. She was hesitant, nervous. But she agreed. We drove out to the lake house, an old place my father left me. Quiet. No neighbors. Just water, trees, and truth waiting at the edge of it all. The night we arrived, I lit a fire in the hearth, made her tea. She was silent most of the evening, like she knew something was coming. And when the kids were asleep, I finally asked her, "How long did you plan to keep lying?" She froze. I know, Emily. Everything. The affair. The money. The motel. The messages. And I know what Josh really is. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to fall for him. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't yell. I didn't blame. I just said, you didn't fall for him. You fell for the attention. The idea that someone else could fill in the cracks you never let me see. Broke down, and I let her. But I didn't comfort her, because I wasn't hers to hold anymore. I stood, walked to the table and placed a folder in front of her. Inside, photos, logs, screenshots, timelines, her entire deception, his entire fraud, all of it. This is what you gave up a family for, I said. She didn't speak, didn't touch the folder, just stared at it like it might catch fire. And then I said, tomorrow we go home. And when we do, this story ends, the way I choose, because now the power was mine, and I wasn't finished yet. We drove back from the lake house in silence. Emily didn't ask what was going to happen. She didn't try to justify anything. She just stared out the window, lips pressed tightly together, like every word she might have said would only make it worse. She was right. By the time we got home, something had shifted between us. Not just the distance, but the weight of knowing there would be no more pretending. She had stopped playing the role, and I had stopped playing the fool. I gave her space, let her stew in the anxiety of not knowing what I would do next. Because sometimes silence is louder than any accusation. But that silence wasn't going to last forever. I waited a few days. Then I made my move. It started with a message, one email, sent from a burner account, no name, no signature, just an attachment to Josh's current employer. That is, the one he told people he worked for, but hadn't been employed at in months. The File contained records, fake employment history, altered pay stubs, screenshots of him using the company name in private loan requests, personal gain under their banner. By the end of the day, his LinkedIn was gone. His phone? Straight to voicemail. I didn't need to hear it to know what was happening. The walls were closing in. Later that night, I received a text from an unknown number. Unknown. You think you're clever? I didn't respond, because that was the first sign he was afraid. Then came the second. Claire called me, voice low and shaking. He showed up at my place, banging on the door, asking if I'd talk to you. He's unraveling. Don't open the door, I told her. He's losing control. That's what happens when people like him can't keep the game going. And he really was losing control. Because that week, he tried to call Emily, twice. She didn't answer, and that made things worse. I didn't know if she was trying to protect herself or protect me, but it didn't matter anymore. The line had already been crossed. There was no going back. Emily started cracking. I could see it in the way she carried herself. She avoided mirrors, barely touched her food. She started sleeping in the guest room, didn't say why, didn't ask me to join her, and I didn't offer. Then I pulled the next thread. At the kids' school, I met with the principal, brought in legal documents, quietly changed the emergency contacts, separated medical access, removed Emily's name from a few things. Not completely, not yet, but enough to signal what was coming. The school didn't ask questions. They just nodded and said, "Let us know if you need anything else," because sometimes people can sense when something deeper is happening, something private, something irreversible. That night, Emily approached me in the hallway. "I got a call from the school today." I nodded. "They said you made changes." I did. Why? I looked her in the eye for the first time in days. "Because I don't trust you anymore." She didn't argue, just whispered, "I'm sorry." But the thing about apologies, they don't rebuild trust. They only acknowledge the ashes, and I wasn't here to sweep them up. A few days later, I set up a meeting with a lawyer, not to start the divorce. Not yet. I needed advice, strategy, a plan that wouldn't just protect me, but the kids, our assets, our future. He reviewed everything, the documents, the timeline, the evidence. When he finished, he looked at me and said, "You've built a case that could crush them both." I didn't smile. I didn't feel proud. It wasn't about crushing them. It was about protecting myself from ever being vulnerable to this again. I left that office with something I hadn't had in months. Clarity. Meanwhile, Josh had gone quiet. No calls, no texts, not even to Emily, which told me one thing. He was planning something. He wasn't done, but neither was I. So I left him one last breadcrumb, another email, sent from the same burner, this time with a simple subject line. "Claire knows everything. So does she. No attachment, no explanation, just enough to make him question who she was, just enough to make him paranoid. Because I wanted them both uneasy. I wanted them both to start doubting each other. That's what people like Josh can't survive. Uncertainty. He was used to being in control, pulling the strings, manipulating women who trusted him. But now, he was fumbling in the dark. Emily was unraveling, and I was still calm, still steady, because this was only the first crack. The real fracture was coming, and when it hit, neither of them would see it coming. The day the truth came out, it wasn't loud. It didn't crash through the front door or arrive in a flaming message. It came like a whisper, quiet, but undeniable. It started with a knock on my door, not from Emily, not from Josh, from Claire. She had driven across town, her child asleep in the back seat, eyes red from crying. I invited her in, made her tea. We sat at the same kitchen table where Emily once told me she wanted to start over. And this time, no one pretended. Claire pulled a USB drive from her pocket. I found this, she said. Josh's second phone had been backed up to a cloud. She'd gained access using one of the passwords he'd foolishly reused across his accounts. She had gone through everything. She didn't look at me as she said, "You're not the only family he lied to." I plugged it into my laptop and opened the files. Photos. Not just of Emily and Josh, but of other women. Dozens. Some crying, some posing, some completely unaware they were being photographed. Messages to them all. Some of them married, some of them young, some desperate, some financially helping him just like Emily had. He ran them all the same way. Attention, promises, urgency. Then slowly, manipulation, emotional dependency, money, and then he'd vanish, or threaten to. "You're just one of many," he wrote. In one of the texts, when a woman begged him not to disappear. And Claire? She wasn't his girlfriend, she was his mark. Just like Emily had been. Just like I had been. Only in a different way. Josh didn't just destroy marriages. He engineered them to fall, for gain, for control. I scrolled through the data, notes he kept on the women, voice memos, ratings, plans. He even had one on Emily, still not sure if she'll leave him. Feels guilty, but likes the attention. Giving her 2 more months, then move on. He was done with her long before she knew it. I felt something inside me settle. Not satisfaction, but closure. I looked at Claire. She was holding back tears. "I thought he loved me," she whispered. "I know," I said. "So did I." I made her a copy of everything. We agreed it needed to go further than just us. Police, lawyers, whoever would listen. We both had children. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about safety. And then I did something I had been waiting to do. I called Emily. "Come, home," I said. "Now." Her voice was hesitant. "Why?" "I have something to show you." She arrived 20 minutes later. Same tired look, same guilt in her eyes. But underneath it, something colder. Something afraid. She saw Claire. She saw the laptop, and she knew. I didn't speak. I just pressed play. A voice memo filled the room. Josh's voice. Calm. Arrogant. She thinks I love her. It's honestly pathetic. I tell her what she wants to hear. She sends me money, and I get to keep doing what I do. Easy. Emily sank into the chair, covered her mouth. Claire stared at her with a look I'll never forget. Part rage, part pity. I let the silence hang, and then I said, "This is the man you risked everything for." Emily started to cry. Deep, shaking sobs. Claire stood, picked up the USB drive, walked out. No goodbye, just purpose. Emily tried to speak. "I didn't know. I believe you," I said, voice steady. "But that doesn't mean it changes anything." She wiped her face. "What are you going to do?" "I've already done it." She looked up. "I gave this to his former employer. I've contacted a lawyer. Claire's taking it to the police. There are other women, dozens. He's going to face all of them." She collapsed back into the chair, whispering, "I was just lost. I didn't know who I was anymore." And that's when I said something I hadn't even fully believed until that moment. "I forgive you." She looked at me, stunned. "Not because you deserve it," I added, "but because I refuse to let him break me too. Because holding on to rage is like drinking poison, hoping someone else dies from it. But forgiveness, that's for the one who moves on, not the one who stays behind." I stood up, walked toward the door. "I'll send the papers tomorrow," I said. "It's time." She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just sat there, alone. Exactly the way she had made me feel for months. And Josh? The last I heard, he was being investigated. His social accounts gone, phone disconnected. Claire had filed a restraining order. But I didn't care about him anymore. He was just noise in the distance now. because for the first time in months, I could hear myself think again. The house felt different after she left. It was quieter, sure, but not hollow. For the first time in a long time, the silence felt like space to breathe, not something suffocating me from the inside. Emily moved out 2 weeks after our last conversation. No drama, no arguments. She packed her things mostly when the kids were at school. She left behind a few photos, some old letters, a sweater I had always told her looked better on her than anyone else. She didn't ask for much, didn't try to, fight me on custody. Maybe part of her still thought she deserved whatever was coming. Maybe, deep down, she did. We didn't hate each other. We were just done. Some things, once broken, stay that way. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. In that time, I focused on the boys, on work, on rebuilding. Not just the life I had before, but the man I had once been. I started running again, cooking. I repainted the bedroom, repaired the old swing in the backyard. Little things that reminded me that healing doesn't always arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it's the quiet click of a light switch, the comfort of clean sheets, a good night's sleep after months of tossing. Claire kept in touch for a while. She testified against Josh when the investigation picked up. It turned out there were more than 20 women, some from other cities. A few had even filed complaints before, but none had stuck until now. Now that he couldn't run anymore, now that we had proof. I didn't follow every step of the case. I didn't need to. It wasn't revenge I was after. It was release, and I'd already found it. As for Emily, we speak only about the kids, short messages, updates, logistics. She's working again, going to therapy. I hear about her from mutual friends sometimes. She doesn't talk about what happened, doesn't try to rewrite the story. That's something I respect, even now. Some people try to pretend the fire never happened. She stands in the ash and owns it. That doesn't make her a hero, but it makes her human. And me, I've learned to stop asking why she did it, why he did it, why I didn't see it sooner. Because the truth is, pain doesn't come with answers, only with choices. And I chose not to be defined by betrayal. One afternoon, I stood in the backyard, watching my youngest try to climb a tree. His brother shouted up encouragement. It was a warm day, the kind where the sky feels a little closer and everything feels okay. And I realized I didn't feel broken anymore, not angry, not numb, just present. That's what healing really looks like. Not forgetting, not forgiving everyone, just choosing not to carry the weight any further. Someone once told me, "You'll know you've healed when you stop hoping they'll suffer." And standing there, with the sun on my face and my boys laughing in the wind, I knew I was free. This wasn't a story about a cheating wife. It wasn't a story about a lying cousin. It was a story about rediscovering myself after everything tried to tear me apart. About building again, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. And if you're watching this, and you've been where I was, maybe you're still there now. Just know this: you won't stay broken forever. You will rise. You will breathe again. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll feel the sun again too.